want to get started since we do have a quorum. We do need to start with the local building. I'm going to try again. Take two. We do have, we need to act as the local building authority this evening. So, welcome to today's Salt Lake City Council formal meeting. The City Council has returned to virtual public meetings starting today to help reduce the transmission of COVID-19. The return to online meetings follows an increase in COVID-19 cases in the city and elsewhere. This change in meeting attendance is a precautionary measure for the safety of the public and city employees, and is based on the latest reports from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The council will return with hybrid or in-person meetings when appropriate. We are truly grateful for the public's patience, but most importantly, we are glad you are joining us today. Before I start tonight's meeting, I would like to highlight that we will begin business in our role as board members of the local building authority, followed by our role as the city council. Think of it as the council wearing two different hats. We are beginning with the business of the local building authority, and then we will change our hats and move to conduct our business as the body of the city council. Thank you for joining us. We will begin with a moment of silence as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. When we are done, we will turn our audio back on. For the public comment opportunities today, we are accepting your comments through WebEx, and for those whose only option is to call in, staff will be monitoring a separate phone line. Before we begin moving through our agenda, I want to mention and review our rules of decorum. But before I do that, everybody I hope that is logged on knows our rules of decorum. Please be respectful. Do not use any profanity, racial slurs, obscene or defamatory remarks. Please try to avoid yelling. If there is a level of disrespect that honestly is too much, then I will ask that you be muted. And if there's profanity, I'll also ask that you be muted. I'm going to go through this again when we get to the city council comments. This being said, right now we are only taking public comments as the city's building authority, or excuse me, local building authority. So if there is a comment related to matters as the council sits as the local building authority, then we will take those comments now. If there are comments based on us as a city council, if you give us a minute, we're going to be that city council. We're going to put that city council hat on, and we will take those comments at that time. I understand that there is always confusion when we have to act in this way with all of the different hats that we as a council wear, and I want to be respectful of everyone being able to give comments. So again, if you're here to talk about city council business, that would be CIP stuff, that would be general comments to the city council. We have other public hearings set for city council, then we would welcome you in that meeting. This is simply for the local building authority. Jen has popped on, so I'm going to give her a chance to clarify or talk about anything that I have just said.
Just to clarify, the local building authority, you guys are meeting and taking action as the local building authority. There's not actually a public hearing on the local building authority. So just to add some more clarification to the different hats you guys are wearing. So the public comments will be in the city council meeting section. So thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, Jen. So with that, I'm going to turn, I believe, to Isaac and see if there are any comments, general comments to the local building authority at this time.
If you will give me 1 second. There are no comments for that. Sorry, my cat was jumping on the computer.
That's okay. Great. In that case, we will move to, excuse me, section B of our agenda, which is unfinished business. This is a resolution for the local building authority to release revenue bonds series 2013A and 2014A. I will look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the Board of Directors adopt the resolution authorizing the redemption of lease revenue bonds and providing for related matters.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Rogers and I believe a second by Councilmember Dugan. I don't know, is that, okay. I will go ahead and roll call this. Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan,
Yes. Yes.
Councilmember Mono,
Yes.
Councilmember Ferris,
Yes. Yes.
Councilmember Wharton,
Yes.
and I am a yes. That's unanimous with Councilmember Valdemoros being absent. Now I will ask for a motion to adjourn as the local building authority board and convene as the city council.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Rogers and a second by Councilmember Dugan. Roll call, Councilmember Dugan,
Yes. Yes.
Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Mono,
Yes.
Councilmember Ferris,
Yes.
Councilmember Wharton.
Yes.
I'm a yes, and that is unanimous with Councilmember Valdemoros being absent. We are now convening as the city council. Yay, everybody change your hat. And we are at item D1, which is the approval of the work session meeting minutes of Tuesday, November 10th, 2020, and meeting minute excerpts relating to the airport bond resolution actions from Tuesday, June 1st, 2021, and Tuesday, July 13th, 2021. I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Rogers and a second by Councilmember Dugan. Roll call, Councilmember Dugan,
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Mono,
Yes.
Councilmember Ferris,
Yes.
Councilmember Wharton.
Yes.
I am a yes, and that is unanimous with Councilmember Valdemoros being absent. We're on the public hearings section of our agenda this evening. Taylor Hill on our staff will be calling the names of those who wish to comment and unmuting lines. Once we open public comment, Taylor will announce 3 names at a time so that people can have some notice and be prepared to speak. When it is your turn to speak, Taylor will say your name, unmute your line, and you may begin. Please state your name and the 2-minute timer will start. At the 2-minute mark, the host will announce time and your microphone will be muted. If you are unable to finish your comment, please refer to your chat screen. Our staff will post our contact information. If you do not wish to speak, please just message our staff to let them know, or when the host states your name, let us know that you're just here to listen. We do welcome, as I mentioned, it's going to go through this at this point. We welcome everybody's opinion. We ask that you remain respectful, that you do not racial slurs, any remarks, profanity, and really this is a space for everybody. We ask that you keep it that way. We don't want anybody to feel intimidated by someone else's remarks such that they don't want to give their remarks. We try to keep this as open and safe as possible. If there is disrespect to a level that is unsurmountable, we will ask that you be muted. Or if you use profanity, we'll ask that you be muted and you will forfeit your right to address the council today. Also, please remember that we, just like when we are in-person meetings, we ask for a first and last name. Please provide a name to us that does not disrupt or include a message or violate our rules of decorum. And if your registered name does not meet this requirement, our staff is happy to work with you. At the end of it all, if you decide that you do not want to speak today, but still want to give comments to us, or that the 2 minutes wasn't long enough, please feel free to send us mail at P.O. Box 145476, Salt Lake City, Utah 84114. Email us at council.comments@slcgov.com, or call us at 801-535-7654. And I'm pretty certain that each of your council members are always welcome to your comments in their personal emails and phones. We're all there to talk to you. So feel free to reach out to us. With that, I am going to turn it over to, our first public hearing is on item E1, which is a rezone at 329 and 331 South, 600 East. This is the Encircle project. Before we take public comment, I will turn the time over to Nick Tarbett.
As you mentioned, this is a rezone of the property of 329, 331 South, 600 East from RMF 35 to RMU 35. The proposed rezone to RMU would allow for a cafe eatery within the existing building, which is currently not permitted under the existing zoning regulations.
Thank you, Nick. Taylor, we can start our first public comment on this.
Thank you, Council Chair. It looks like we have about 4 people here to speak to this item tonight. The first of which will be Shaylee Syme, followed by Caitlin Tubbs, and then Jacob Dunford. Shaylee, you are now unmuted.
Hi, my name is Shaylee Syme. I am the Director of Cafes for Encircle, and I just wanted to speak to Encircle's mission and the purpose of these cafes. We're very, very excited to open them and to bring the community into our space. We do so much good work. We provide so many amazing resources for the queer community, and we're really hoping that with this cafe, we can provide just a really great space for people to come study, to gather, to get to know each other, and that it can be safe for everyone that comes. A lot of our resources that we provide now are specific to queer youth, and we're hoping that we can bring in more college-aged people of the community to experience the space. The hope is also that we are able to provide jobs to the queer community. We have a lot of hopes for also connecting them to other careers outside of Encircle once they're involved. And yeah, I just wanted to speak to that. And we're really excited about the project, really ready to get it going. So.
Okay, next we will have Jacob Dunford, followed by Wade Budge. Jacob, you are now unmuted.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Jacob Dunford here, Chief Operating Officer at Encircle. I just wanted to speak a little bit to the history of Encircle. As you may know, we're an LGBTQ Family and Youth Resource Center here in Salt Lake City, founded in Provo in 2017. Our Salt Lake City location is named after LGBTQ icon for me, John Williams, a longtime resident and entrepreneur and restaurateur, restorationist, in Salt Lake City. And our John Williams Encircle House here serves as a reminder to the larger community that regardless of your sexual identity, race, religion, there's a place for you. And since we've opened in 2017, we've served over 70,000 LGBTQ youth and families. And we continue to average about 50 guests per day here in the Salt Lake City house. It's always bustling, and we're able to provide these vital mental health services to the community. I specifically want to thank the City Council for your support. I know that Councilwoman Anna has, we've gotten some really yummy empanadas. And Darren and Kevin for the hours, and of course the mayor for your longtime support since our opening, and so many others. So, it's just been so warm and beautiful to see the reception of the community here in Salt Lake City, and our expansion throughout Utah has been just so beautiful. So we're super excited about this cafe concept, to Shaylee's point, as it will bring more of the community in, but also help fund those mental health services in the home. As if all the nonprofit people here know, it's a constant beg for money. So it's really good to have some sustainable revenue models set up. So.
And Council Chair, we had Caitlin Tubbs and Wade Budge just here to answer questions on that item, not here to comment. So that was our final comment on that item.
Wonderful. Thank you for commenting. And we've heard from Wade in the past when he was here with part of the briefing. So with that, I will look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the council close the public hearing and adopt the ordinance.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Rogers and a second by Councilmember Wharton. I will roll call.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm sorry, before we do that, I just want to disclose that I'm on the advisory committee for Encircle, but I've consulted with the city attorney, and because it's not a paying position, I do not, she said I don't need to recuse myself, so, but I did want to disclose that.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. Any other discussion regarding this motion? Okay. Where was I? Roll calling. Councilmember Valdemoros.
Yes.
Councilmember Mano.
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
Councilmember Wharton.
Yes.
Councilmember Ferris.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
And I am a yes. That is unanimous. I will turn to our next item, which is an ordinance that would close and vacate a portion of a city-owned alley at approximately 740 South Goshen Street, between Goshen Street and approximately 1075 West, as a public right-of-way. Before we take any public comments, I will turn the time over to Brian Fulmer with council staff for a brief introduction. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This, as you mentioned, this proposal is to close and vacate a city-owned alley at approximately 740 South Goshen Street. The alley is adjacent to the applicant's property and ends at their rear property line. There's a former intersecting alley segment that was vacated in 1962. So this does not lead anywhere except along the side of the applicant's property. That's my intro.
Thank you, Brian. Taylor, we will turn to public comments.
Council Chair, it looks like we have one person here to speak on this item, and that will be Tara Kimbane. Tara, you are now unmuted.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Tara Gitpiban. Sorry, it's a little complicated last name. My husband and I petitioned for the alley closure since 2006, so it's been about 15 years ago. And we moved into the neighborhood about 12 years ago. And we pretty much took care of the alley, you know, cut up the weeds. The weeds grew really tall, and there's some rodents and different things. Within the 12 years that we lived there, we didn't really see any traffic or any public use, really. It has been a long wait, and we would consider you really, you know, give it some thoughtful considerations to close the alley. And thank you for your considerations and the opportunity to speak tonight. So thank you.
And that was our final comment on this item.
Perfect. Thank you. Council members, I
have a motion, Madam Chair.
will look for a motion.
I move that the council close the public hearing and defer action to a future council meeting.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Rogers, a second by Councilmember Dugan. I will roll call Councilmember Valdemoros.
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
Councilmember Ferris.
Yes.
Councilmember Mano.
Yes, sorry about that.
It's okay. Councilmember Wharton.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
And I am a yes, so that is unanimous. Thank you. We are on to public hearing E3, which is an ordinance that would vacate 5 unimproved city-owned alleys and 6 unimproved city-owned streets situated within Rosewood Park, located at approximately 1400 North, 1200 West. And before we take any comments, I once again will turn it over to Brian for a brief introduction.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the proposal is to vacate 5 unimproved city-owned alleys and 6 unimproved city-owned streets within Rosewood Park at the address you mentioned. If adopted, the proposal would allow the several parcels that make up Rosewood Park to be consolidated, which would simplify the permitting process for any future park improvement projects. That is my introduction.
Taylor, we can start with public comment.
Council Chair, it looks like we do not have anyone here to speak on this item this evening.
Awesome. I will look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the council close the public hearing and defer action to a future council meeting.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Rogers and a second by Councilmember Ferris. Roll call, Councilmember Wharton.
Yes.
Councilmember Valdemoros.
Yes.
Councilmember Ferris.
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Councilmember Mono.
Yes.
That is unanimous. Oh, I'm a yes. So now it's unanimous. Moving on to our 4th public hearing, which is an ordinance that would amend the zoning ordinance pertaining to appeals of administrative decisions. Before we begin, I will turn it over to Nick Tarbett with the council staff for a brief introduction. Nick?
Thank you. This text amendment would clarify what matters can be decided by the city's appeal hearing officer, who can appeal decisions, and when an appeal can stay a decision. Just a heads up that during the work session, a question was raised if the ordinance identified how long a hearing officer had to determine whether or not a stay was appropriate. Staff worked with the administration to come up with some language that is included in the staff report that would require the hearing officer to make reasonable efforts to determine that stay within 10 days of the appeal being made. So that if the council is interested, there will be a motion to adopt that with the final language.
Taylor, any comments on this one?
It looks like we do not have any comments for this item either.
Great, thank you, Taylor. I'll look for a motion, council members.
Madam Chair, I move the council close the public hearing, defer action to a future council meeting.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Rogers and a second by Councilmember Dugan. I will roll call. Councilmember Ferris.
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
Councilmember Valdemoros.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Councilmember Wharton.
Yes.
Councilmember Mono.
Yes.
And I am a yes. That is unanimous. Moving on to our public hearing item E5. This is an ordinance that would delete and eliminate the special exception process from the zoning ordinance. And before any comments, again, I'll turn it over to Nick Tarbett with council staff for an introduction. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, thank you. As mentioned, this proposal would eliminate the special exception process from the zoning ordinance. The purpose of the proposal is to amend the zoning ordinance to accomplish the following: simplify the zoning ordinance by updating regulations and eliminating special exceptions, reallocating staff resources away from processing land use applications that favor individual properties, and increasing predictability and reducing neighborhood conflicts created by requests for special exceptions. In addition to the public comments the council may receive tonight, there's been quite a few emails that you have all received that have been forwarded to you, mainly expressing concerns about the impact of outdoor dining to adjacent residential properties and how doing away with the special exception process would take away the ability of neighbors to help identify problems for the city to be able to look at and potentially mitigate. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Taylor, we'll start with you.
Council Chair, it looks like there are 3 people here to speak to this item this evening. First will be David Davis, followed by Adam Spickle, and then Melissa Reagan. David, you are now unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, my name's David Davis. I am in that situation. I live next to a CN property and have had a couple of really rough years. I just wanted to note that with the special exemption, the word expresses it perfectly. It is something that's not normal. It's not normally allowed. It's not beneficial. So it is an exception, and it's something that's special. I was going to note the commercial property is zoned CN, which is neighborhood commercial. So the C and the N are both equally important there. My property is zoned R, not RC, just R. There's no commercial on that. So I understand and can appreciate the efforts of the special exception and the extra work on that. Just remember that I also work from my home. It is my business. So that's to protect the business next door to me, but I live and work here. I've paid property taxes on my home for 29 years now, and I would hope that that pulls a little bit of weight on that. Wanted to note the impact on property value. That should be seriously considered. The adverse impacts of adjacent property, it states outdoor dining shall be located in areas where such use is likely to have the least adverse impact. That needs to be carefully monitored. And then just to end, the norms of civilized society. If you've got a neighbor, if you've got somebody sitting next to you in the office and they're constantly making noise and you can't work, that's not accepted. But if you have a business next to your house, they can make all the noise they want, and the Planning Commission gives them permission to do it. So if something's good and proper and right in one location, it should be good and proper and right in another. And I can't mute the people next door. You can mute me, you can mute anybody else if they're being obnoxious. I cannot mute the people next door. So there needs to be ample protection.
Next, we will hear from Adam Spickle and then Melissa Reagan. Adam, you are now unmuted.
Okay, can y'all hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, I'm a 11-year resident, highly productive community member, and I'm in the same situation as Dave Davis. The impact of the outdoor dining on my residents is profound. I don't think this is just me being ornery. I think anybody would find it unreasonable to have an open-ended invitation to all of society to come and chatter, make noise 13 feet away from a living room window, 20 feet away from a bedroom window. I sent y'all an email. I could much better express in that email the impact this has had on me. But with this special exceptions process, all the language is in the coding for the special exception, the language that protects the residential portion of the CN neighborhood. And I think that if you do away with that process, you're also doing away with the coding. And it sounds like there's not being the inclusion of that kind of language in the new way of thinking. And I think the effect that'll have is that I won't have protection as a homeowner. If these things aren't being enforced already, that sounds like a different issue. I mean, civil enforcement had to, that you can't, a business can't have a light shining on a residential property in the CN neighborhood, but somehow I can have all this commotion 13 feet outside my window. It doesn't make sense. It's just inappropriate. I'm just hoping you guys will please take the time to read my email and consider that not every situation is the same, and that there is some nuance with these things. And if there isn't going to be a process where those nuanced individual situations can be looked at, then maybe something could be included in the language ahead of time to recognize these special situations where it's just not appropriate. It's not an appropriate mix of uses to have this dining right next to somebody's house. I know we all love this outdoor dining and the convenience it provides, but I'm sure I could find 200 people that would love a keg party at my house. It doesn't mean that it's the appropriate place for it. Please, please, please just read my email, consider this. Please don't just move forward in the purpose of production and productivity and streamlining. I hope you'll please just look at this situation and consider it. And I'd be happy to talk to anybody outside of this and better explain myself. Thank you guys very much. Go local government.
And finally, we will hear from Melissa Reagan. Melissa, you are now unmuted.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Melissa Reagan, outside counsel for Verizon Wireless. Appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. Overall, Verizon agrees with the proposed ordinance and changes for, in particular, the ground-mounted utility box process, as it will help wireless service providers in their deployment, but also align with the city's objectives of trying to minimize the amount of equipment in the right-of-way and provide for better aesthetics. We have met with the city attorney's office and engineering and planning, and it's our understanding that it's the city's intent to allow wireless service providers to deploy the ground-mounted utility boxes in the public right-of-way without the special exception process as they provide service to the broader neighborhood, which that provision is set forth in the revised code that's included in the ordinance. We just had a few minor red lines to the draft ordinance, which we submitted in an email to clarify and align with the city's intent. The first is simply just to add some headers to subsection C-1 through 4 to clarify the types of properties and parcels the code is referring to when discussing where ground-mounted utility boxes can be deployed and what the requirements are. And then second, specifically on subsection C3, which talks about how ground-mounted utilities can be deployed if they serve a broader purpose for the neighborhood. We just wanted to add in the language there that it would include wireless service or other telecommunication services. Right now, it's limited to just providing utility services. Wireless service providers are not considered or regulated as a utility provider, so we just wanted to provide that clarifying language. And like I said, we've submitted those to the City Council in red line format. Happy to answer any questions you may have, and we appreciate the opportunity to submit and discuss. Thank you.
And that was our final comment for this item.
Great, thank you. Thanks to everyone who commented. Council members, I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair. Sorry, Councilmember Romano.
Thanks. I move that the council close the public hearing and ask planning staff to come back with a few potential recommendations that may mitigate the impact of outdoor dining on adjacent residential uses.
Councilmember Romano, would you accept a friendly amendment as well?
What's that? What's that?
To also have the administration look at the red lines that Verizon Wireless has put forth as well to the council staff.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Council Member Mono and a second by Council Member Rogers. Any further discussion on this? I'll roll call. Council Member Valdemoros.
Yes.
Council Member Rogers.
Yes.
Council Member Wharton.
Yes.
Council Member Dugan.
Yes.
Council Member Ferris.
Yes.
Council Member Mono.
Yes.
And I am a yes, that is unanimous. We are on our last public hearing item, which is capital improvement program projects. This is in regards to a resolution for project funding allocations in the capital improvement program, which involves the construction, purchase, or renovation of buildings, parks, streets, or other physical structures. Before we begin taking comments, I will turn the time over to Ben Ludke with our council staff to give us a short introduction. Ben, it's all yours.
Thank you. CIP this year has 75 projects requesting over $60 million in funding. This is nearly double the total CIP budget. The council is scheduled to continue CIP discussions next Tuesday, August 24th, and take a vote on project-specific funding that evening. This is the second CIP public hearing. The budget staff report, the updated funding log, including updates from today, which I just emailed to the council and several constituents who reached out asking for a copy as well. The administration's proposal and all of the attachments are available in today's meeting packet. And we also have a quick link on the council's homepage that'll take you to the CIP Budget Hub. The council's website is slc.gov/council. Thank you, Chairperson Fowler.
Thanks, Ben. Taylor, we'll turn it to you.
Council Chair, it looks like we have about 12 people here to speak to this item tonight. The first will be Becca Huber, followed by Sean Whaley, and then Jan Krabel. Becca, you are now unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Hi, my name is Becca Huber, and I live in the East Liberty Park neighborhood of Salt Lake City. And I support the funding of a community garden at 700 East in Harrison because neighborhood gardens reduce crime, increase access to healthy food, build communities, and improve green spaces. As a resident of this neighborhood for the past 12 years, I want to see a better use of this underutilized space. The community garden is a real win for the city, as the proposed site is being watered and maintained by the city, and a garden there would preserve the green space as well as conserve water and could be used to grow healthy food instead. I believe that Salt Lake City needs to keep investing in projects like this to meet its commitment for sustainability over the long term, the same as it continues to invest in other types of public infrastructure like roads or tennis courts. And importantly, the proposed garden is the only urban agricultural project that's currently being considered for CIP funding. Developing a new community garden on city land takes about 2 to 3 years. And we have done the first step, which is community engagement and outreach, which has been met. We have over 800 signatures on our community support petition, and all the project needs now is funding to build the garden. So thank you so much for your time and for this opportunity to voice my support to fund the Harrison Community Garden Project.
Next, we will hear from Sean Whaley, followed by Jan Crable and then Mirko Radosevic. Sean, you are now unmuted.
Good evening, everybody. I'm here to speak in support of Wasatch Community Gardens' proposed garden at 700 East and Harrison. I'd just like to say that I did join the community garden at Richmond Park right as the pandemic started. I found it to be invaluable for me to have an outlet living in a 7-story apartment building, to actually have a plot of land to be able to work, to be able to raise my own vegetables and herbs, share them with my friends and coworkers, take pumpkins into work and have contests and actually speak to people in the park, share with them some of that produce and build community. I hope that, as we all know, as we drive on that 700 south headed towards the interstate, we see that green strip of land. By funding this park, we will be able to use some of that in a more productive sense. And given its proximity to both Liberty Park and then the baseball fields, we can add another attraction for Central City residents. Thank you for your time this evening.
And next we will hear from Jan Crable, followed by Mirko Radosevic, and then Allison DeTerry. Jan, you are now unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, good. My name is Jan Crable, and my husband and I live on the corner of East Capitol Boulevard and Round Top Drive. I'm here to speak to traffic mitigation on Capitol Hill. As you probably know, Ensign Peak is one of the city's top tourist attractions. Sadly, what visitors experience is they hike, bike, scooter, or drive up East Capitol Boulevard. To get to the peak is a reckless disregard for safety. Pods of motorcycles and drivers with modified mufflers racing at dangerous speeds with screeching tires and brakes, most barely making turns onto side streets every day and every night this goes on. And I know this is not the face that Salt Lake City wants to show the rest of the world, and it's certainly become a monotonous, deafening moan in our neighborhood. I'm asking you to approve traffic mitigation on Capitol Hill as part of the Capital Improvement Project. And I want to express my gratitude to the Capitol Hill Neighborhood Council for its relentless commitment to try to figure this out for years, and especially to Brian Hutchinson for his dedication to moving this project forward for our neighborhood and for our guests who visit us and for our city as a whole.
Next, we will hear from Mirko Radosevic, followed by Allison DeTerry, and then Ashley Patterson.
Support of
unmuted.
Hi, I'm Mirko Radosevic. I'm calling in support of Wasatch Hills Tennis Center and wanted to share the tennis center and how it's impacted my family and my life. When I was a small boy, my family fed our native and war-torn country of Yugoslavia. Our difficult journey led us to America and eventually Salt Lake City, where we lived in the Glendale community throughout my youth. My father, Zoran, got a job at Coca-Cola factory, and my mother took care of my sister and I. With no connections, friends, or family in this area, my parents were fortunate enough to find the Sorensen's Multicultural Center. There, they found information about beginner tennis classes being offered at Coach Mike's Tennis Academy, now referred to as Wasatch Hills. What we found at the Managed Tennis Center changed my life and the life of my family. Coach Mike Martinez and current operator Spencer Marchant taught the class. Although we had a difficult time communicating in English, the staff welcomed us with open arms and recognized our talent and ability. My sister and I were given permission to train at the facility for free, and my father eventually became a full-time tennis coach at the center. By the time we were teenagers, both my sister and I were ranked #1 in Utah and in Intermountain region. We eventually received a full ride Division I college scholarship and recently completed our bachelor degrees with an extremely bright future ahead of us. My sister is actually in medical school. On top of that, this past year, my father, Zoran, was recently awarded the #1 tennis coach in Miami, Florida, considered the most competitive tennis city in the country. I will forever be grateful for what goes on in Salt Lake City Managed Tennis Centers, the Coach Mike's Friends of Public Tennis Foundation, Salt Lake City, and America. The opportunities they have given me and my family are endless. Please consider capital improvements at the important tennis centers so more kids just like me can be given opportunities to thrive on the court and in life. Thank you so much for letting me share my story today.
All right, next we will hear from Allison DeTerre, followed by Ashley Patterson, and then Amy Wiley. Allison, you are now unmuted.
Thank you so much to the council for letting me speak tonight. I'm speaking on behalf of the Harrison Community Garden Project. I love the idea of community gardens because we make community with our neighbors. Sometimes people don't even know their neighbors anymore. And I think it's a very important thing to be connected with people that you are living by. So that is one of the benefits. As a fitness instructor, I see it as an area for restoring and building people's health. Many therapeutic benefits come from gardening and in spending time in nature. I think that that would be an amazing opportunity for so many people who just don't get a chance to get outside or to be doing anything physically active. It also provides a space to grow low-cost, fresh fruits and vegetables for people who maybe don't even have a space to garden. Wasatch currently does not have any community plots available. So I don't think we can have enough community gardens here in Salt Lake City. I don't know how many council members have had an opportunity to visit any of the gardens, but go to the Wasatch Community Garden, and it is such an educational experience. And I just want to say, let's root the Harrison Garden Project. Thank you so much to the council for letting me speak.
Okay, next we will hear from Ashley Patterson, followed by Amy Wiley, and then Bruce Wood. Ashley, you are unmuted.
Great. Thank you all so much for taking the time to consider all these great projects for Salt Lake City. I'm Ashley Patterson. I'm the Executive Director of Wasatch Community Gardens. And I understand the city is most interested in equity and investing in the west side of the city, which are definitely goals that Wasatch Community Gardens shares. We not only have existing gardens located on the west side of the city, but we also have a new project in the early development phase in collaboration with the Rose Park Neighborhood Center. However, the way we work in our partnership with Salt Lake City is that our partners at the Salt Lake City Parks Department identify appropriate spaces to locate community gardens and ask us to start and manage these garden spaces on those sites. These projects take 2 to 3 years to come to fruition because the neighborhood and community engagement piece that is so critical to the success of the projects is what you're hearing about tonight, which is very exciting. If we build a garden, we want to know that the gardeners will come and to ensure that these vital urban green spaces are thriving and vibrant. It's important for Wasatch Community Gardens to work with different neighborhoods in different ways, since the character of every neighborhood is unique. This project at Harrison Avenue at 700 East has been driven by community members for nearly 2 years. And we've honestly never seen the level of interest in any of our garden startups of our 16 that we currently run. Over 100 people expressed a desire to have a plot there. Investing in urban agriculture in all areas of the city is necessary, and appropriate green spaces are few and far between and becoming more scarce with all of the current development that we're seeing now. We sincerely request support for the project we have currently submitted, the Harrison Community Garden. This project has a significant impact on the community for its relatively low price tag. Thank you all so much.
Next, we will hear from Amy Wiley, followed by Bruce Wood, and then David Troster. Amy, you are unmuted.
Ashley gave a great introduction to my comments, so thank you, Ashley. My name is Amy Wiley, and I am representing the Good Samaritan Foundation. We operate the Rose Park Neighborhood Center, located at 754 North, 800 West, and we are on city-owned, leased, but we lease from the city property. As Ashley said, we're in the early stages of applying and getting approval for a community garden there. And as I drive around the city, I've seen many, since we started this project, I have visited many of the gardens. They're beautiful and they're such an asset to the community. But I've also become aware that there seems to be fewer on the west side. And there are just a couple of points I'd like to make tonight in regards to that. I was told that one of the reasons that there might be fewer is that early on organizing support from neighbors, and what we would be offering as a nonprofit would be to provide some of that support, that we would be able to identify and have some of our staff and other volunteers that we already have in our organization would take on the leadership role. And so even though the neighborhood itself, which we are surrounded by dense apartments, this would be a new way to look at organizing a community garden on the west side by utilizing some of the nonprofits. The other thing I think is really important is it's obvious that the west side has high numbers of refugees and immigrants. We all know that. And one thing that we have seen, that most of them grieve for the land that they lost. Most of them had a connection to the land, and they are very capable teachers for all of us on farming and growing our own food. And just lastly, I just want to echo what others have said, that
Next, we will hear from Bruce Wood, followed by David Troster, and then George Chapman. Bruce, you are unmuted.
Good evening. I'm Bruce Wood, a volunteer board member of Coach Mike's Friends of Public Tennis Foundation. And I'm calling to advocate for our Wasatch Drive Tennis Court Reconstruction CIP project. I've communicated in writing to the council several times now, most recently yesterday, on the merits of the project, which I'm happy to say now carries a $400,000 request, reduced $100,000 due to our efforts to locate and work with an outstanding contractor here in the Valley. In short, we're ready to go. Wasatch Drive and Liberty Park are Salt Lake's only two public full-service tennis facilities, and they serve players, schools, other organizations, and leagues from 25 different zip codes. They are the only two places where people and organizations of ordinary means and all backgrounds can access quality instruction and play tennis on a year-round basis. The only other option is to join a private club, which has membership fees and altogether higher costs. During the council's many meetings, you've heard from several young people, including young Mirko earlier tonight, whose lives have been positively impacted by what goes on at our two public tennis facilities. We at the Coach Mike's Foundation want to continue our efforts to serve the community by providing access to the facilities for all individuals, and especially those in need of financial support. And we need the council to partner with us by approving our project. which will allow us to redirect our efforts and our limited funds towards supporting the broad tennis community and particularly its underserved individuals. Thanks for your consideration. Good evening.
And next we have David Troster, followed by George Chapman, and then Nicole Farley. David, you are unmuted.
Hello, my name is David Troster, and I've been told by city staff that 2 CIP projects, 3 Creeks West Trailway and 3 Creeks West New Park, are on track for approval. I encourage you to move forward with approval of those CIP projects, and thank you for your consideration. They'll build on the success of the new 3 Creeks Confluence Park, and they'll improve safety, multimodal transportation, and access to the Jordan River on the west side of the river. I ask that you also approve a third related CIP, 3 Creeks West Roadways. These 3 projects originally were 1, and city staff asked that they be separated into 3. The projects are along 1300 South and near 10th West. At that location, the trailway is eroding heavily into the Jordan River, and the 3 Creeks West Trailway project will fix that. And that's a $500,000 project. However, because the trailway and 1300 South are contiguous at this location, I believe it would save taxpayers money to fix the roadway and trail at the same time. This section of roadway has been neglected for decades and will have to be reconstructed very soon anyway. The city transportation department rates the roadway a 12 and a failed rating is a 10. It's virtually failed. There are no curbs, gutters, or sidewalks, no storm sewers or sanitary sewers, and contamination from septic systems is beyond healthy levels according to the State Department of Environmental Quality. Fixing the roadway along with the trail just makes sense and will create a vibrant community hub spanning the Jordan River between 9th West and Glendale Street. The investment will have a broad impact on safety, sanitation, transportation, and enhanced recreation for years to come in the central Glendale and beyond. In addition, every resident on these 2 streets is in favor of this project, and it's endorsed by the Glendale Community Council. So I just ask that you please fund the 3 Creeks West Roadways project in correlation with 3 Creeks West Trailway and 3 Creeks West New Park. And
next we will hear from George Chapman, followed by Nicole Farley and then Jennifer Ritter. George, you are now unmuted.
Okay, thank you for the straw poll, $453,000 for item 72. The Sugar House Safe Streets, please ensure that it's used for implementation, not just on a consultant. Traffic calming, shading, crosswalk enhancements, and parks should be part of regular transportation parks improvements. My concern is too many of the CIP projects should have been implemented by the city. This list of exceptional projects listed raises the question of why would anybody object to most of these projects? These appear to be basic city responsibilities. So why is the system requiring the city council to get involved in it? It seems a waste of time. So, I mean, the Capitol Hill and other traffic calming issues should have been taken care of a long time ago. They shouldn't have to wait for CIP. Bottom line, the CIP system has to change. On the downtown loop, I'm concerned that there's a drought and we should stall it until we can find out more about how to efficiently water that. I'm concerned that the car lots are going to fight the trees. Remember the Garf car lot fight? And Grand Boulevards don't make sense when there are car lots and 50,000 average daily trips a day on a street. And the fleet block should be part of the CIP list or on a budget amendment as a priority along with Glendale Park. We need fleet block more than the downtown green loop and the low utilization of the Allen Park building rehab. Salt Lake City's getting $85 million from ARPA funds, so why is Odyssey House the only eligible item for eligible for funding? I'm also concerned the Trib article did not report that you're back to virtual meetings, and since you don't answer the phones, people don't know, and they're frustrated at not being able to comment on a Sunday paper story. Those are my comments on CIP.
And now we will hear from Nicole Farley, followed by Jennifer Ritter, and then David Shearer. Nicole, you're now unmuted.
Oh, thank you, council members. As a resident of the Sugar House neighborhood, I'd like to express my support for the Harrison Community Garden at 700E in Harrison. As a new resident to Salt Lake City, thank you for welcoming this past November. I decided to participate in the startup of the Harrison Community Garden when I realized that the Wasatch Community Garden space in the Sugar House was full and received an email to participate in this one. Through participating in the startup of the Harrison Community Garden, it has allowed me to develop a sense of community among residents that I normally would not have had the opportunity to engage with. As a new member of the community, seeking community was a huge importance to me. I would also like to add that as a longtime advocate and a passion for agriculture and agriculture education, I was a former FFA officer. I have a bachelor's of science in agriculture business, as well as agriculture education. I know firsthand how agriculture can benefit an individual, a neighborhood, an entire community. Having a community garden at Harrison and 700 East would be a good opportunity to bring community together, to teach individuals how to grow their food from the ground up, but also it just provides an opportunity for one to get to know a neighbor, even if it's not in their direct neighborhood. So for that reason, I support and ask you to support funding the Harrison Community Garden with CIP funding, so that we can continue to grow community in Salt Lake as the community continues to expand and grow, because there's no better way to welcome new residents into the community than through a garden. Thank you.
Okay, and it looks like Jennifer Ritter has left the meeting, so we will move on to David Shearer. David, you are unmuted.
Thank you very much. Good evening, members of the council. I'm David Shearer, the chair of the Capitol Hill Neighborhood Council. I would like to thank you for your consideration of our application for our traffic calming plan. These problems have existed in Capitol Hill at least since 2000, when the Capitol Hill Neighborhood Master Plan, which is still in effect, mentioned all of them, and they have done nothing but gotten worse. We have a variety of problems, and the plan which is before you is the result of a 1.5-year effort led by the Capitol Hill Neighborhood Council to bring together various stakeholders, including Salt Lake City Transportation, UDOT, local businesses, and local neighbors, to work out a coordinated, comprehensive plan that will solve the traffic problems, or at least go a long way to solving the traffic problems which have beleaguered our neighborhood for so long. I think that the process which created this is exemplary. It represents the best of citizen involvement in city governance and helping to address the problems that beset a neighborhood, rather than simply sitting back and expecting our representatives to do that job for us. I encourage you to support our project to the full extent of the application. We have, as I said, consulted with Salt Lake City Transportation, and we are ready to go. So I appreciate your support of our project, and we look forward to solving problems that have existed in our neighborhood for a very long time. Thank you very much.
And that was our final comment for CIP.
Excellent. Thank you to everyone who commented and has followed along with our CIP discussions. Council members, I'll look for a motion on this.
Madam Chair, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Rogers and a second by Councilmember Dugan. We'll roll call. Councilmember Mano.
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
Councilmember Ferros.
Yes.
Councilmember Warden.
Yes.
Councilmember Valdemoros.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
And I am a yes, and that passes unanimously. Council members, we have to, and public, whoever is listening to us right now, we have to recess as city council, as this meeting and move into a limited formal meeting for our Truth in Taxation meeting. I don't know that I need a motion to recess.
That's correct, you don't.
So I'm just calling a recess, and we're convening with the limited formal meeting for the tax in truth in the truth in taxation. I was going to say the tax in truthation, but that doesn't work so well. So we are now convening for a limited formal meeting, which means this is not a standard formal meeting agenda. Oh, for the public, real quick, we will come back as the regular city council, and we will have general comments at that time. This is by state law. We have to convene at 7 o'clock, and that is what we're doing at this time. So if you still have general comments, we will come back to that when we are done with this formal meeting, limited formal meeting. Tonight, the council needs to consider action on the final step in the annual budget process for the city's Truth in Taxation hearing, a public hearing required by the state. A Truth in Taxation hearing happens when any of the following takes place. The city raises property taxes, there's a property tax stabilization, or there's a judgment levy. This year, the city used both a judgment levy and property tax stabilization, but did not raise property taxes. Although the hearing is a formal step required by the state, the council is always interested in hearing from the public. Feedback from the public helps the council make decisions in future budgets or even amendments to this year's budget. However, if you've received your property tax assessment and wish to protest, please contact Salt Lake County or visit its appeals webpage. Taylor Hill on our staff will be calling the names of those who wish to comment and unmuting lines. So the only public hearing item right now in this is the Truth in Taxation hearing for fiscal year 2021-2022. And before we move to any comments, I will turn the time over to Jen Bruno for a brief introduction. She thought she was getting off the hook.
Madam Chair, you actually did a great job kind of framing why we're in this hearing, so I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Great. Taylor, we will turn to you for any comments on this item.
Council Chair, it looks like we have one person here to speak to this item, and that will be George Chapman. George, you are unmuted.
Wonderful. Okay, I don't know how to respectfully say this, but I will try. If a resident is getting a $1,000 property tax increase bill, the city, the county, the state tax commission, and others are involved in it. So this city should be concerned and report where the $1,000 extra property tax is going. Telling people to go to the county assessor is disrespectful because there are a whole bunch of others really involved. So where is the extra $1,000 going? This city's citizens deserve more information about where this tax increase is going, especially if the tax rate doesn't change. But in this case, I believe the Truth in Taxation hearing also does have a tax increase included. So I am against any tax increase, since based on all the projects I see around the city, this city is rolling in cash. Even though it defers basic maintenance, it's rolling in cash. So I'm against any tax increase. Those are my comments.
And that was our final comment for this.
Thank you, George, for commenting, and thank you, Taylor. With this, I will look for a motion.
I think Taylor, if she can share the motion sheet. It's to close the public hearing, and there's a step that the council needs to do essentially to ratify the budget that you adopted in June. It's just a funny step in the Truth in Taxation process where even though you finalized the budget in June, from a Truth in Taxation process, that's not final until this step.
Okay. The council members see the motion sheet. I will look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the council close the public hearing and adopt an ordinance establishing the final rate of tax levy, including the final levy for the library fund upon all real and personal property within Salt Lake City made taxable by law for fiscal year 2021 to 2022 and ratify the budget as adopted by the council.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Mono and a second by Councilmember Wharton. I'll roll call this. Councilmember Mono.
Yes.
Councilmember Voldemoros.
Yes.
Councilmember Wharton.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
Councilmember Ferris.
Yes.
And I am a yes, and that passes unanimously. This concludes this limited formal city council meeting, and we will adjourn this meeting and go back as city council. And if I need to make a motion for that or ask for a motion, somebody needs to tell me, please. Okay, I'm gonna go with no. So we're going back. Appreciate the public for understanding. This is sort of a weird thing that just is dictated by the state law, and we have to do what the state tells us to do. So we are moving back to our normal council meeting, and we are on section F of our agenda for those of you that are trying to follow along with the confusion that is this meeting sometimes. It is the potential action items, and we have no potential action items. So we are on agenda item G, which is comments. Sorry, I'm wondering if there are any questions for the mayor or from any of the council members. Mayor, I do have a question, if there may be, I don't know if you covered this in the work session during your update, and if so, I truly apologize, as I was not there on time. But wondering what, or if you are in any discussions with the school district regarding masks in Salt Lake City, or if you can give us an update on any of that.
Yeah, that was discussed, and we could probably send you some news articles that have happened subsequent to the council work session meeting. But I have been in discussion with school board leadership, some school board members, and the superintendent, and am asking the school district, school board to officially support my taking action for an order to enact a mask requirement in Salt Lake City School District. Hopefully, and Councilmember Rogers took it upon himself to ask for an emergency meeting be convened by the school board. I don't know if they are open to that or if that's going to come together, but their next scheduled meeting isn't until September 3rd. And as you know, school starts a week from today on the 24th of August. So we shall see. But I think it's really critical that as a mayor potentially taking action over a school district, that we have the full support of that school board who the legislature has disempowered to do what people elected them to do. So that order is pending a response from the school board.
Thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate you going over that again since I wasn't there, and just want to give my support with your actions, and I think it is imperative that we have the school board on board, but definitely in support of what you're doing, and we got your back on that. So any other comments to the mayor? Mayor, is there anything else you'd like to add at this time?
No,
Thank you as always. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Thank you as always for being here. Appreciate it. With that, we will move to the general comment portion of our agenda. I am not going to go through the rules of decorum because I truly trust that anyone who is here to comment will follow the rules of society and be respectful to one another as we listen to each other's opinions and comments. So with that, I will turn it over to Taylor for our comment period.
Council Chair, it looks like we have about 7 people here to speak for general comment, the first of which will be Samantha Finch, followed by Katie Pappas, and then William Fisher. Samantha, you are now unmuted. Okay, we will troubleshoot with Samantha and move on to Katie. Katie, you are unmuted.
Hi, my name's Katie Pappas and I live in District 3. It's commendable and reasonable that the mayor's office is putting a moratorium in place to limit high water use projects in this time of extreme drought in the West. It got me wondering what else might be done. Unfortunately, we are facing other equally severe crises related to climate change and the destruction of our natural world. This is an all hands on deck moment. The United Nations, in their 2021 IPCC report, states climate change is widespread, rapid, and intensifying, and is found in every region and across the whole climate system. Salt Lake City is faced with poor air quality, drought, a shrinking Great Salt Lake with increased toxic dust pollution and less bird habitat, more traffic, fires, higher temperatures, and algal blooms. Many of these problems are worse on Salt Lake's west side and adversely affect nearby residents. Projects in the inland port will make them even worse. The permitting process provides a unique opportunity to rein in bad projects. The city has an obligation to act in the public interest and has the right to request information before granting permits. Questions like, what impact will your project have on air quality, traffic, and the environment? How much water and energy will you require? What is your plan to mitigate any negative impacts that may occur? Then look at the impacts of all the projects in one area, like the Northwest Quadrant as a whole, not just one at a time. How will this development affect the city's ability to meet its climate goals? Will we be moving toward greater sustainability and a healthier city? The answer is no, maybe we shouldn't grant that permit. Salt Lake City can show other communities that there's a better, more forward-thinking way to address the permitting process. The world is changing. We can't afford to continue with anything goes. Thank you.
Time.
Okay, Council Chair, we will go back to Samantha Finch, and then we will hear from William Fisher and then Johnny Vasick. Samantha, you are unmuted. Okay, we will move on once again to William Fisher. William, you are unmuted.
Hello, I'm William Fisher, and I'm a constituent of yours, Amy. And I appreciate the opportunity to address the Salt Lake City Council tonight. I would like to urge the council, the mayor, and therefore the city to immediately terminate their cooperation and support of the Utah Inland Port with the state of Utah. After 3 years, the Inland Port still hasn't done an independent environmental impact study or even a health risk assessment, even though there are many civic, medical, and environmental organizations that have asked them to do so. Well, they probably have, but found negative results from those internal studies and decided not to make them public. The Utah Positions for a Healthy Environment studies have shown that there would be significant, considerable amount of air pollution increase by the increased large diesel truck traffic, construction at the port, and other factors related to the inland port. Especially with traditional inversion pollution, and now with wildfire pollution, which will continue in the coming years, this is not the time to add increased air pollution and other problems to not only Salt Lake City, but all of Salt Lake County. And so the city council and the mayor need to do the right thing, cut this off before it goes any further, becomes any more of a great big boondoggle where they're spending millions of dollars of taxpayer funds, which basically help mainly merchandise, traffic, transporters, property tax owners, and city and state politicians. So we need to do the right thing and cut this off before it goes any further. Thank you.
And next we will hear from Johnny Vasick, followed by Jenny Hewson, and then Michael Land. Johnny, you are unmuted.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Johnny Vasick. I'm the Executive Director of Utah Physicians for a Healthy Environment. I think we all know at this point about the controversy surrounding the Utah Inland Port. I have grave concerns about what is happening within the inland port boundaries. The Port Authority seems to be accountable to no one. They have some major problems with transparency and their so-called strategic business plan, which would be laughable if it weren't putting so many families at risk and threatening the very quality of our life along the Wasatch Front. Having recently been in the port boundary and witnessing newly planted Kentucky bluegrass in front of all of the massive Amazon warehouses there, I wonder where are the sustainable practices that we keep hearing about from Jack Hedge? Where is the water going to come from these massive developments? Why are we planting grass and not xeriscaping? I have yet to see any LEED Platinum certified buildings or solar panels in the works. Are Tier 3 and 4 switcher engines going to be required to enter the port? What about newer and cleaner diesel trucks? Is there any requirement? More tax incentives and deferments are not going to be enough to keep this project from destroying our city. And I guess I wonder, what is the city doing to hold UWEPA accountable? Are you using every tool in the toolbox to apply the brakes and demand the answers to the hard questions? We would like to see a moratorium on all building permits within the port boundary until these questions and many more that I don't have time to get into are answered. We love our progressive city. It's a great place to live, and we want to have a great place to stay, but we're worried it's not going to stay that way. With so many challenges from climate change, fire, bad air, ozone, drought, and the drying of the Great Salt Lake, why, oh why, are we turning a blind eye when it comes to the inland port? We can no longer have development and growth at the cost of our air quality, at the cost of our quality of life and our children's health. Please stop permitting until we have a green, progressive, renewable solution to the port issues. Thank you.
And next we will hear from Jenny Hewson, followed by Michael Lang, and then George Chapman. Jenny, you're unmuted.
Thank you for the opportunity to address the council. My name is Jenny Hewson. I will comment on agenda item H, advice and consent. Kristen Riker, Director of Public Lands. I fully support Kristen Riker's appointment to Director of Public Lands Department. I'm a resident of District 3, the president of the Friends of the Salt Lake City Cemetery nonprofit, and a member of the city's Parks, Natural Lands, Urban Forestry and Trails, or PNUT, Advisory Board. I support Kristen's appointment for 3 reasons. First, I have confidence in the direction that Kristen has taken the department, including through the ongoing community-driven Reimagine Nature master planning process. And I'm excited to see the department continue to flourish under Kristen's direction. Secondly, I believe that Kristen understands both the challenges and opportunities that exist for the public lands as the city's population expands, and with it, the need to holistically steward the city's portfolio of public lands for the future. And finally, I'm in awe of the resilience that the Public Lands Department has shown over the last 18 months through the pandemic, the social justice movement, and the September 2020 windstorm, and I believe much of this resilience comes from the empathy and clear leadership that Kristen provides. Thank you.
Okay, and next we will hear from George Chapman. George, you're unmuted.
Okay. This city acts like it is unenvironmental. The city's park strip ordinance has to change in order to follow the state's efforts to flip the strip. This ordinance, our ordinance, requires greenery on park strips up to 22 inches at corners and 36 inches otherwise. Zoning still gets complaints of not enough front yard greenery. So that has to change. Trees are required every 30 feet on park strips if they're 3 feet or wider. But 3-foot wide park strips do not support trees without wasting water. This all makes Salt Lake City look unenvironmental. The city is not asking the city library to accept fluorescent bulbs. County library does. That makes Salt Lake City look unenvironmental. Mayor, council, tell the library to step up. The city does not allow family bicycling on downtown sidewalks. That discourages family residences downtown and discourages bicycling. This ordinance makes Salt Lake City look unenvironmental. Salt Lake City uses illegal herbicides in repairing corridors, especially during nesting season. This city negligently overuses and misuses herbicides. This makes Salt Lake City look unenvironmental. And why won't Salt Lake City enforce an anti-idling ordinance on all of the idling diesel trucks at the inland port? This makes Salt Lake City look unenvironmental. And finally, the proposed fence height ordinance of 4 feet in front yards limits dogs being allowed to roam without a chain in the front yard, which discourages following a city ordinance against chaining a dog outside for long periods. Remember, Mayor? Appropriate fence heights allow dogs. And since the city keeps approving high-density monster housing next to homes, higher fencing protects privacy that was available for decades. Those are my comments.
Okay, and we will circle back to Samantha Finch once more. Samantha, you are unmuted if you want to try and talk again.
Can anyone hear me?
We can hear you now.
Oh, great. Sorry about the confusion. So my name is Samantha Finch. I am a resident of Salt Lake City and the current chair of Salt Lake City's Parks, Natural Lands, Urban Forestry, Trails Advisory Board. So I'm here tonight to recommend that the council approve the appointment of Kristen Riker as the director of the Public Lands Department. As a member of the Citizen Advisory Board since 2019, I have become acquainted with Ms. Riker through her leadership of the Parks and Public Lands Division. I feel strongly that the board has been well served by her expertise and guidance. She has kept the board informed and involved in all important matters that have come before Parks and Public Lands. In my tenure with the Citizen Advisory Board, I have been excited by how Kristen Riker has directed the Parks and Public Lands policy beyond a simple maintenance focus to a broader, more progressive environmental mission. Under her leadership, Parks and Public Lands take steps to incorporate principles of sustainability, green space equity, community-centric design into planning and projects. With over 20 years of experience in the local community as a parks and recreation professional, Kristen is the right person to satisfy our shared goals and meet the challenges of this newly elevated department in our city government. I consider myself fortunate to work with her in reimagining and growing our urban green spaces. Please approve Kristen Riker as the department director so she may continue her excellent work for the benefit of all Salt Lake City residents. Thank you.
Okay, Council Chair, that was our final general comment this evening.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone who commented. And thank you, Taylor, for your work in running our comments. It's always great. So we are moving on to agenda item H, our new business. The first item of business is approving the appointment of Kristen Riker as the director of the Public Lands Department. I will look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the council approve in our advising consent capacity that we approve Kristen Riker as the Director of the Department of Public Lands.
Second. I have a motion, that's what that's called, a motion by Councilmember Wharton and a second by Councilmember Dugan. I'll roll call. Councilmember Mono.
Yes.
Councilmember Wharton.
Yes.
Councilmember Ferris.
Yes, indeed.
Councilmember Valdemoros.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
And I am a yes. And we look forward to having Kristen Riker as our new director. So that is unanimous. The next item of business is meeting remotely without an anchor location. I will look for a motion to ratify the chair's determination to continue meeting remotely and without an anchor location due to the health and safety of the people who may be in attendance and considering the continued closure of the city and county building to the public.
Madam Chair, I move that we ratify your chairwoman's determination that that continuing to meet remotely without an anchor location is necessary for the public safety reasons that you just stated.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Wharton and a second by Councilmember Mono. I will roll call Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
Councilmember Wharton.
Yes.
Councilmember Valdemoros.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes. Yes.
Councilmember Ferris.
Yes.
Councilmember Mono.
Yes.
And I am a yes. And that passes unanimously. We are now on section J, which is the consent portion of our agenda. I will look for a motion.
For approval, Madam Chair.
Oh, go ahead, Councilmember Rogers.
I said move for approval, Madam Chair.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Rogers, a second by Councilmember Wharton. Roll call, Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
Councilmember Wharton.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Councilmember Valdemoros.
Yes.
Councilmember Ferris.
Yes.
Councilmember Mono.
Yes.
And I am a yes. That passes unanimously. And we are adjourned for this week.
I'm sorry, Council Chair.
Yes. Did I miss something, Cindy Lou?
Sorry, we
Some
just skipped
unfinished
over
business.
unfinished business items.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we did skip over that. Wait, I didn't think that oh, there, I missed one, didn't I?
2.
I apologize, everybody. Let's try this again. Going back to unfinished business, we have a resolution regarding funding our future. It's an addenda to the Transit Master Plan Implementation Interlocal Agreement with the Utah Transit Authority. I will look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the council adopt the resolution entering into addendum number 4 and addendum number 5 to the interlocal agreement with Utah Transit Authority, and that the remaining $175,261 be placed into a holding account reserved for the future funding our future transit expenses.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Rogers and a second by Councilmember Wharton. Roll call, Councilmember Rogers. Councilmember Mono.
Yes.
Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
Councilmember Valdemoros.
Yes.
Councilmember
Yes.
Wharton. Councilmember Ferris.
Yes.
I am a yes, and that passes unanimously. Our next item of unfinished business is a resolution authorizing the issuance and the sale of sales and excise tax revenue and refunding bonds. I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move the City Council adopt the delegating bond resolution authorizing up to $26,100,000 of sales and excise tax revenue refunding bonds and providing for related matters.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Rogers and a second by Councilmember Dugan. Roll calling this. Councilmember Dugan.
Yes.
Councilmember Mono.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Ferris,
Yes.
Councilmember Wharton,
Yes.
and Councilmember Valdemoros.
Yes.
I am a yes, and that passes unanimously. And now, unless I've missed anything else, which is always a possibility, we are officially adjourned. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.